Warriors, this is the Spartan Underground. And now, your host, James 300 Foster.
What's up, my friends? Welcome to episode 5 of the Spartan Underground. This is the first episode of 2016, and I'm really excited. I have the man behind the brand, Shoyoroll, Bear Quitugua. I hope I said his name right. He'll probably fire me if I didn't. Have him on the show. Really excited. Talked about all sorts of cool stuff. I think you guys are going to enjoy it, give you more insight into kind of how the brand came about and everything. And with that said, Shoyoroll is the sponsor of the Spartan Underground, the official sponsor of any and all episodes of the Spartan Underground. So this was a really great opportunity, and I hope you guys enjoy the show. Take care. All right, guys, I'm really excited. I have my first guest of 2016, and it's a big one. I got the boss man behind the brand Shoyoroll with me today, Bear. How you doing, Bear?
Good, James. How are you, brother?
I'm doing awesome. Hey, I really appreciate you taking the time to be on here with me this morning.
No worries, man. It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me. Anything for you.
Very cool. I appreciate it. What's a typical morning like at Shoyoroll HQ?
It's usually pretty mellow, man. Unless there's a sale going on or shipments are landing, it's usually just normal business, you know. But we have a really good team here, so everyone just kind of trying to go through emails, get through messages, trying to take care of stuff that they got to get through, and then finishing up the day, you know. So with random drop-ins and stuff like that. So that's kind of the normal deal.
Definitely. How early do you usually get into work?
We're usually here from about like 8 to 5 normally, you know. Sometimes Fridays we get off a little earlier, but for the most part, it's like an 8 to 5 gig.
Very cool. Maybe we could give a little background. I assume a lot of the Shoyoroll fanatics like myself already know this information, but kind of how did you get started in the brand, and maybe a little info about the background of how you came up with the name and that type of stuff.
How we came up with the name of the brand, we were juggling a few names in the beginning, and then there were a bunch of like really basic names like Alpha Board Writing Company, Vector International, a few different things.
Right.
Things that sounded and looked cool, but they were really too general, you know. They weren't really custom or specific. So we just came up with, after a ton of thinking and trying to figure stuff out, we're like, okay, let's try and figure out something that's more core to Jiu-Jitsu and grappling. So that's when we came up with Shoyoroll, basically, which stemmed from get on the mat and show your role, you know. So,
yeah, exactly.
So that was kind of it. And then we just kind of took out some letters. We were just creatively writing it on paper, seeing what looked good, what didn't look good. So we just started removing some letters so it looked a little cooler when it was written out, you know. And then that was really it, man. And then we that was how we came up with the name. But the as far as how the brand started, I mean, we were just a hobby brand like everybody else. Every other high school kid wants to start a brand or clothing company after they get out of high school or in high school, you know. So we weren't any different. We were just trying to give our own creative flair, making T-shirts and hats and stuff. So for me and my friends, you know. So that's how the brand started back in like 99, 2000. You know?
Yeah, so it's been around for a long time. Did you ever anticipate it getting to the level it's at now?
No, I think whenever you start something, you always kind of dream and hope it's going to be cool, you know. But you know, after doing it for a few years, you kind of you go through the realities of you know, what level you're doing stuff at, and if it's really taken off, you know. And you kind of figure stuff out real fast after a few years of trying to do things, you know. You can only sell to so many people, and then you kind of lose steam, you know, in the very beginning. So
right.
It's kind of how it was for us, you know. So
what's the symbolism behind the Shoyoroll logo?
Well, The mark is it's pretty simple, you know. I grew up Asian in the Asian culture, Islander culture, you know, and then also I was a big fan of TNC surfing and skate brands back in the 80s and 90s, you know. So yin and the yang was a really really popular image back then. So we basically took inspiration from the yin and the yang, and we kind of put an S there in the middle of a circle, and that signified Shoyoroll. And then we had the three circles alongside the S inside the circle, which basically the three circles symbolize surfing, skating, and grappling and mixed martial arts culture at the time. You know, so those were the three industries that we really drew from as influence for the brand, the stuff that I was into at the time.
Yeah.
So that's really where the mark and the logo comes from is from that stuff, you know. So
when you started the brand, how much focus did you put on the product versus coming up with a strong branding? Like what was your thinking behind that? Did you have a lot of ideas for what kind of product you were going to put out, or did you put a lot more focus into kind of coming up with a strong brand, strong iconography and everything before starting to push out the product?
no, I think in the beginning I just kind of started to do I was more just on the creative, trying to make a cool graphic, you know, or trying to put a cool graphic or a cool design and just trying to put it on a t-shirt, you know, or a hat, sticker or something. So that I didn't really understand branding so much then, you know.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what it was, you know. I was just trying to figure out what could look cool on a t-shirt, what could look cool on a hat, what could look good in a sticker or whatever, and try and make it, you know. And that was really the framework of how I thought back then, you know, in the first first 5 years at least, you know, maybe even 10 years, 5 to 10 years around that time, you know. So that's some of the framework that I thought of before, as opposed to how it's kind of transformed over the last 5 to 8 years, you know. So now I think more on both sides, on the brand side and on the development side.
Right. And do you put a lot of restrictions on yourself as far as what type of things you want to come out with, or do you kind of go with the flow and see where it takes you, and instead of saying, oh, we need to do this and branch out into this area, do you take the approach more of kind of, you know, seeing what the trend is in the jiu-jitsu world, or maybe what people are wanting before deciding what you're going to do?
I think in the beginning we kind of did what we liked, and we didn't really think about the market so much, you know. We just kind of did what we liked, and we took on we had a little more freedom, so because I didn't understand too much about branding back then, you know. So it was a little easier before, you know, to make stuff. Now, whenever we make stuff, there's a lot of thinking and there's a lot of thought process that goes into everything, you know. Probably if we're thinking of 10 ideas, maybe like one or two of them make it out, you know. If there's like 5 or 10 projects that come through, we might do 1 or 2 projects within the year, you know. So there's a lot of stuff that we don't do, you know. And I think that's probably what I've learned over the last 2 years. Sometimes the stuff that you don't do kind of helps you, you know, as opposed to the stuff that you do.
Yeah,
so.
it's kind of just as important what you don't put out versus what you do put out, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. I think you don't really get it in the beginning, and then after you go with time, you kind of start to figure that stuff out, you know. And I talked to a bunch of really, really well-known artists and good people in different industries that are thriving, and they kind of think the same way. And you know, it's funny how that's how I'm kind of starting to steer now towards, you know, less is more almost. So.
Well, I think everybody knows I'm a huge Shoyoroll collector and a huge supporter of the brand, and you know, I think you've always teased me because almost every new gi that comes out, I say it's my favorite one so far. So I think a lot of that comes from you guys constantly pushing the envelope and doing like you're saying, and really refining what you're going to release. So where do you draw your inspiration from to continually come out with such innovative and great designs?
For us, we just pull from within, you know. We just try and not steer too much from who we are, you know. I think that's the biggest thing. It's really easy to steer and make stuff that everybody wants, you know, just to meet everyone's demands. but sometimes it can kind of steer you away from who you are as a company and a brand, you know. So for us, we just try and stick to what we are, who we are, and not go too far from that, you know. We've done stuff in the past where sometimes we've explored different things, but the more we go into things, the more we understand. It's like, okay, just as long as we stick to our guns and we do what we do best, then we should be fine, you know. And at the end of the day, we're a gi company that's trying to make the best fitting gis in the world, period, you know. And that's what it is, you know. And I live and breathe jiu-jitsu, you know, and jiu-jitsu is the core of our brand, and that's the culture that we pick and elements that we use within jiu-jitsu is who we are as a company, you know. And so that's the biggest part. I think that's where we've refined, you know. We're not a different company coming into jiu-jitsu, trying to make money in jiu-jitsu. You know, the making money and being able to run a business is kind of just the offspring of us being a jiu-jitsu geeky type company, you know, being fully vested to the jiu-jitsu community and no other community, you know. And that's really I think how we figure out where we stand and where our influence is going to come from, you know. It's never going to change. We started doing this when there was no money and we were just jiu-jitsu geeks following the coolest blue belts and purple belts and brown belts around the world, you know, as well as black belts, you know, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And here we are today, still doing the same thing, you know, geeking out on the coolest kids in the history of jiu-jitsu. So
yeah, that's awesome. And it's really cool to see you guys continue to stay close to your roots with that.
Yeah, it's kind of hard, right? It's kind of hard when things grow and when there's a lot of opportunity outside and to kind of shake up and change things, you know. But for us, I think staying rooted and knowing who we are as a company and what culture and what community we're vested to, which is the jiu-jitsu community, you know, it starts to get real easy with time once we kind of figure out who we are as a company and what industry we want to focus on and be in, you know. So
yeah, when people ask me, you know, why I'm so proud to represent your company and your brand, I always tell them it's about the people behind the brand and what you guys do. And I think a lot of people don't realize how much you give back to the jiu-jitsu community and how much charity work you guys do. You know, to me, that's most important. That's why I'm most proud to be a representative for you guys. And just the fact that you make great uniforms that fit me better than any uniform out there and have awesome designs, that's just frosting on the cake. So maybe talk a little bit more about why you feel it's so important to be involved with charity and helping give back to the jiu-jitsu community in that respect.
You know, I come from Guam, you know, so it's kind of, at least in my DNA, from an island or a hospital type culture, is just people are pretty giving, you know. So if there's someone in need or if there's someone in help, you try and help them out, you know. I mean, that's just how I was raised and how I grew up, you know. So internally, I just sometimes I'll just get those urges to help, you know. And you know, we're not able to do it all the time, but for us, it's more just on feeling, you know. If we feel we need to react, and if we can react and try and help, then we're gonna try and help, you know. It's not so much anything else behind it. It's just really if we feel we can make a difference or try and help a little bit, you know, even if it's just a little, we're gonna try and do it, you know. So a lot of the way that the company is run is on emotion, you know. So sometimes the business has to sacrifice the emotion of what we think is the right decision, you know. So that's just how we've run it before, and that's how it's probably always going to be run, you know. So
that's very cool, because I truly believe that keeps it genuine and it's coming from the heart, and I believe that's where you derive a lot of your success from.
Yeah, for sure, man. I think it's hard. It's hard when you're trying to balance a business and trying to do positive things, you know. But hopefully the more positive things that us and other companies do as a community will help inspire others to do more and more, you know. And really, that's that's something that I feel that since we're in a position and a place to try and influence and um, try and build a movement around positive things, sometimes we, as much as we don't want to get involved in a lot of the things, just because sometimes as a company we don't want to be visible like that, we
Right.
want to stay behind it. Sometimes we have to just to try and stem influence and trying to help a community push around something positive. So that's some of the stuff that we do. Either visibly or on the backside, we try and do something. So.
Yeah, definitely. I was going to ask you. You had mentioned earlier deriving some inspiration from certain artists and designers and things. Can you let everybody know what are some of the designers and people that you follow as far as keeping your creativity up and keeping that motivation to keep continuing to innovate?
For us, man, it's hard because from a as far as from a creativity standpoint, there's so much stuff that's current that's happening right now. So that's something that maybe a lot of companies do is they're following what's current, what's now. But for me, I don't follow too many things. So in general, I just kind of stay in my bubble, and I'm just using all the old references that I have in my mind from the 80s and 90s.
Right,
So
right.
also just trying to derive ideas from some of the best artists in the world, or maybe even some of the people that we're close to that are friends of the brand. So it's a mixture of, I think, a little bit of old, a little bit of what's at the highest level, and then also inspired by the artists that work around us. So I think it's a whole mixture of things. I don't think it's any one thing, but for us, we're never just focusing on what's now, what's current, what just happened 6 months ago in this industry and this industry. We just don't follow any of that stuff. So for us, it's bad because we don't know what's current. But it's good because we don't get sucked into trying to copy what another industry is doing. We just try and build and figure out what our industry is going to be in the next 3 to 5 years and try and build our own industry. So.
Yeah, I've noticed that you guys kind of have done some things that are throwbacks to maybe things you were fans of as a child. I know you guys have the Transformers gi coming out soon.
For sure.
I know that's one I'm really excited for. That was my favorite cartoon growing up, so I'm definitely anticipating that one. And I remember you guys did like the beefcake gi, kind of a Brutus the Barber beefcake reference there, and you've done a lot of little subtle throwback things there to pop culture and that type of stuff. Do you have any other plans for stuff like that coming up?
Yeah, for sure. Like I'm a huge fan of culture and just trying to figure out how it fits within the brand. That's kind of the hardest thing, is just figuring out how it can squeeze into the brand and make sense. A lot of people use pop culture or something that's popular to help stem maybe the interest and drive sales. But for us, because it's popular, but for us, we're just trying to figure out how to make it intertwine with our label, be rooted to who we are, and just try and make it cool without being over the top all the time. That's always the goal, is to try and make it subtle and make sense for us as a brand. So same way, I'm an old school toy geek, just like probably any other kid. So that's kind of the stuff where we try and bring in when we can bring it in the future. But we do have some stuff coming for sure.
Awesome. Well, I'll be waiting with bated breath for that stuff. Definitely. I don't know. Most people out there who follow me probably know I'm a huge nerd, both literally and figuratively. So
I think most jiu-jitsu guys are, right?
Yeah. I think it's funny. A lot of jiu-jitsu guys I know that are also into art and comic books and all these different things. So I think it must be kind of how our brains function to, that attract us to those type of things.
Yeah, in my opinion, I think most jiu-jitsu guys are kind of nerdy in some way, shape, or form. I don't think a lot of people that do jiu-jitsu are maybe they may have not been the coolest in class at one time. So I think jiu-jitsu gives everybody a common balance, and helps them with confidence and gets us all around the same community and kind of like, okay, well, you're a nerd in this. Well, I was a nerd in that too, you know? So
Yeah, for sure.
it kind of balances us back out and gives us confidence, you know? So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, definitely. Very cool. Now, the one question you probably get asked the most is, people are always wanting to get sponsored. And I know I get a million messages every month because people think I'm going to be able to get them in with the brand. So what are some of your sponsorship requirements right now? Are you guys only sponsoring black belts currently?
It all depends, man. You know, like it's a mixture of things. You know, like now it's harder and harder to get onto the team. You know, and it's just because the brand has grown over the last 2 or 3 years. You know, but also it's also our crew's pretty big. You know, so we try and keep it to a certain amount to where we can manage and stay in touch with the people that we have relationships with, you know. And some people see it as sponsorship, some people see it as a relationship, some people see it as, you know, as other things, you know. But for us it's if you're a competitor, you know, we normally don't start looking at competitors, you know, until they're a purple, brown, and we usually don't start taking on competitors till they're around brown belt or black belt, you know. Like that's the reality of the competitor side, you know. And we're normally looking for the best competitors to compete long term in the biggest tournaments, which are like the Pans and the Worlds, and to get the results on a long term basis, you know. So that criteria by itself is very, very hard, you know. So that's the reason why it's a little harder to get on the team, you know, if you're, let's just say, an adult competitor, you know.
Right.
And sometimes what we've seen over time is, you know, maybe the people are the best blue belts in the world as a competitor, and for whatever reason life happens, you know, and as purple they're not able to be as competitive, you know, and win maybe the major big tournaments. So they go into like a teaching phase or opening a gym type phase towards their brown belt, you know, and which is totally cool, you know. For us, we still keep those relationships and we still work with those guys through their whole jiu-jitsu career / span, if you know, if it works on both sides. But that's kind of the life of a competitor as far as how we're working with competitors. We don't have many blue belts right now, you know. I don't even know if we have very few, maybe like 2 or 3 at the most, if that. And purple belt, same thing, maybe 2 or 3, you know. Brown belt, same thing, 2 or 3. And I think the biggest thing is because all the people that we've had in the last 3 to 4 years are all now black belts, you know. So all those purple belts that we used to have and brown belts that we used to have are now black belts, you know. So it's now we're getting back into the phase of, okay, let's go start picking up some people here and there to add to the team, you know. But for the most part, that's how we treat our competitive team and circuit, you know. And like I tell everybody, it's like if you're a competitive athlete in the adult division, and it's even harder in the masters division just because more of the eyes are on the adult division, and masters divisions doesn't get as many views.
Yeah, nobody wants to look at us old guys out there.
Yeah, I love it because I'm old, you know, and I totally get it, you know. But it's harder to bring people on when they're a little older, you know, especially if they're like on the lower belt level from like a blue to purple belt, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
Those divisions, just because a lot of big companies are searching for adults in the purple, brown, and black belt category, and they have masters as well. But it seems like the masters division is normally like the after competitors are done at the adult division, they're letting their edge out on the masters division, which is normally just as hard, if not harder, you know.
Yeah, I would argue it's harder, you know. I can't see going in there against Salo being an easy match by any means.
No, it's almost worse, to be honest. You know?
I agree.
And that's just the reality of it. It's like everyone that's masters right now, everyone's that's masters right now is like is crazy. It's like 3-time, 5-time world champion.
Yep, crazy level of experience,
Yes,
and you're
Saul, like everybody, like it's
yeah, and you're in there, and you got less time to work with against a more skilled competitor, so it's
sure.
definitely hard. But you're right, it's the focus gets put more on the adult.
And I think I'm even more pushing a lot more towards the lower belt. Like if you're a blue belt master, purple belt master, brown belt master.
Yeah, definitely.
It's even hard for consumers to stay on the black belt masters just to see who's who, or what's what. And that's just the consumer. The consumers only can follow so many people. So for them to get, you've been to tournaments before a billion times. You're just looking at, almost looks like a bunch of ants. Who's fighting. And if you're a geek, who's fighting. But for the average consumer, they're just normally just trying to look for their friend or the instructor. And I think that's why, from a master standpoint or senior on a blue belt, purple belt, brown belt level, I don't think so much on the black belt, just because there's so many iconic people in the masters division. So it doesn't really hold true on that division so much. But for the lower belts, it's a lot harder, to gain steam and visibility to companies. I think, and we get all the guys. The lucky thing with us is a lot of the people that are winning the biggest tournaments, they're already they're already big customers and big believers and supporters of the brand. So we get real fortunate in that sense. But other than that, I mean, we just tell people if you're gonna compete, just compete, and go have fun and just do it because you want to do it. I think in this day and age, everyone wants to say they're sponsored.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's more of like an internal thing, and it sounds cool to say you're sponsored. Or you're a part of a crew or part of a company. And that's cool. I totally get it. But the reality is like, for me, I'm just like, a lot of guys hit us up. And a lot of guys want to be on the team, and for us, people that support the brand long term, they're just customers of the brand. We try and look at those people before we look at anybody else, and that's the reality of it. I've known people who've lined up for releases 3-4 years in a row, and won the biggest tournaments and are now like the biggest names in American Jiu-Jitsu, like Dylan Danis and guys that have won stuff forever, in big tournaments, and they just purchased our product for a very, very long time,
Yeah, people that were wearing the brand prior to ever seeking out sponsorship, they were already showing that support and and the brand loyalty, prior to asking for anything. I think there's a lot of people that are kind of in the looking for free stuff, and they'll kind of jump to any brand that offers them sponsorship. But I think it's important that if you really believe in a brand, that you're representing it even before being sponsored, and that you believe in the message behind the brand. And it's like I always tell everybody, it's got to be more about you need to ask what you can do for the brand, and not so much what the brand can do for you. It's got to be beneficial on both ends.
Yeah, totally, man. I think that's what's hard. I think in the beginning, it's hard to understand the principle and the concept of it. Like there's a give and take. And brands want people to, especially as a startup. As a smaller brand, you want to have the most people supporting you to try and drive sales to your company, or help try and market your product. And I mean, when we first started, we were trying to just market our product as much as possible, but the person that's marketing and promoting the product, when you're giving product in that startup phase, it's almost like they're almost doing you more. They're almost helping you more than you're helping them, in a sense, right? Because in reality, you're not really giving much. You're giving a couple gis, some gear. That's really it. Maybe paying for a tournament or two. That's the reality of a sponsorship.
Right.
But once a company has grown over time, and it's a company that you want to be around, for the most part, when we pick up people, it's more from a, at least now compared to when we were a startup, it's not so much because we want them to promote our product, it's because we truly believe they understand the brand vision, they understand what we're trying to do long term, and they believe in the brand wholeheartedly,
Well,
and
and something I've noticed is you guys, and I'm pretty sure it's intentional. I mean, usually the people you guys pick up and sponsor are good people off the mat as well as on the mat, and I think that's really important.
yeah, we try to, man. We try to, of course, it doesn't always work, but we really try to work with people that kind of understand what we're trying to do, like us. It's not about picking up the next blue belt that won a world championship, or a purple belt masters or brown belt masters that's won, 3 gold medals in a row. It's not even about that anymore. We're not trying to sponsor people because we want extra visibility in those spaces. When we are picking up people, it's because we want to be able to have them be representatives of the brand, because we think what they do wholeheartedly matches the brand. It's not so much, okay, I won and won another medal. That's not even the purpose in a reality. That's just icing on the cake. We want to be able to work with people that have supported us long term, or either get what we're doing long term, and that takes some time. It doesn't just come from, hey, I want a sponsorship and okay, you're the guy. Like it's almost like a marriage. Like you kind of have to feel it out a little bit and then figure out if it's the right time. And that's kind of how it is whenever we pick up somebody. And that's why a lot of people are just like, oh, I get it. And some people they stay in there. Like, I don't care, like whatever it is, like you guys are the guys I want to work with, and I've been offered this, and this, and even to the point where people are like, hey, I got offered a bunch of stuff, and they've been with us for a few years. They're like,
yeah,
I'm just
definitely.
gonna stay. You probably got hit up a bunch.
Oh yeah, definitely. I've had to send plenty of email responses saying, I'm exclusive with Shoyoroll. Thank you, thanks for thinking of me, but I can't, and I can't and don't want to.
Yeah, I think the bigger thing too is like a lot of people just get sent free stuff, so
Yeah.
you feel like almost like you have to. You feel bad, like you're like, okay, well, I have to wear this shirt, or I have to wear this patch, or I have to try and do something because I just got something for free,
Right.
So you feel this sense of, man, like this company really really likes me, I'm important to them, um, but it goes both ways, right? Like it's you're getting product to promote something, and so you're actually helping a lot. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're that you need to. It's really just a matter of if you like that product. It's always good to, like, we're always super blessed and fortunate to be able to get stuff, and we're super thankful. But I'll never forget. Now it's kind of making sense. A lot of people say, like, free stuff is the most expensive stuff.
Yeah, exactly. There's always
There's a catch.
there's always a catch.
It's not just to be cool. It's not just to be friends. Like, there's always something. And I think once you start to see through what it is, then you're able to make a better decision. And I think normally it's really hard to see that. And then like, literally, like, every time something comes that's free, it's like, oh jeez, is it really free?
Yeah, you're trying to look for that little hidden small print.
Yeah. So that's just some of that stuff, and I think it's cool. I think it's cool that everybody gets support and everyone gets free stuff here and there, like, especially as an up and coming lower belt. Like, geez, any free stuff is good, so you don't have to go and buy stuff. But
Yeah, definitely.
I'll never forget a parent and his kid came in here, and they're like, oh yeah, well, they have sponsorship, but they love Shoyoroll, and I'm like, oh, that's awesome, man. That's cool that you have a sponsorship, and I was like, it's a lot cooler to say you're sponsored, and the dad just starts laughing, he's like, yeah, and he's like, yeah, they don't get too much, he's like, it just sounds cool that he says it's sponsored, and I'm like, no, I totally get it. I get it 300%, He's like, but really, I'm a sponsor,
Yeah.
And I was like, yep, that's the reality of it. I was like, the reality of a sponsorship until you're at the highest elite level in any sport, and especially in jiu-jitsu, there's that top percentage of guys that are just like, they're the icons for the sport, and those guys are probably making a lot more than 90% of the industry, but
Yeah.
but the reality is, like, other than that, you're really your own sponsor, it's you're paying for yourself to go to tournaments, you're paying for yourself to compete, you're buying the stuff that you want to wear, and then other than that, like, that's the reality of being a competitor, and and I've seen it from blue to black, all the way through over the last 15 years, but the reality is just trying to really, I think that's when you really break down what a sponsor really is and the company that you really want to work with. And I think that's a big deal when you look at it long term. Short term, if you just need to get some free stuff here and there, you need some cash, take the deals that work for you and get what you need to get for that year, and then the following year figure out, well, if that same company is the same company for you, or look for another company, But if you're looking for something long term, and you're looking at yourself long term, that's when it gets a little bit more tricky, and you kind of just have to look who's on the table and what makes the most sense for the person, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, and you start understanding the relationship aspect of it more, as opposed to just trying to get stuff. You understand the importance of giving back to the brand and looking for brands that are on the same page as you. I wouldn't say maybe from a moral standpoint, but just making sure your ideals are in line with the brands that you represent.
Yeah, totally, man. I think it's cool because there's a lot more support all the way around, and kids get support from startup companies, and people are able to support people at a lower belt level, and I think that's freaking awesome. I think that's amazing. I just think when you start looking at stuff long term, as you start to grow and figure out what you want to do in jiu-jitsu, and what you want your place to be in jiu-jitsu, I think that's when it starts to make sense a little bit more when you look at it as a whole, but most people they're just training, they're trying to be the best, they're trying to win tournaments, they're trying to get recognized, for their hard work, and they're in a sea with thousands and thousands of people getting similar type results, So for that, I think it's super important just to figure out who you want to align yourself with, as a company or as an individual, and just work with those companies, whoever it may be. So that's my advice on it.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. So with success, I think a great indicator of success is when you start having haters. And you and I have talked about haters before, and I've gone out and defended the brand, maybe when I didn't need to, wasted a little energy on it. But how do you approach when you're getting a lot of hate and you see these things with people bad mouthing the brand or bad mouthing people that support the brand? What's your approach to that usually? To just kind of let it roll off your back and not even put the mental energy towards it?
Yeah, it's hard, right? Because Shoyoroll is a grassroots company, like, it's not this big corporation, like, so it's hard to just let it go, like, with time it starts to roll off your back, and it's not such a big deal, but every word that's said about the company is personal to me, like, I take it and I digest it, it's not just like, okay, there's another message kind of thing, like, everything is feedback, really, whether good or bad. So it's like, we're a small company. We started in the garage, there's about 10 people that work here that all do jiu-jitsu, and family, friends, like the whole thing, so we're a total grassroots type company, so if there's something we're doing bad, or there's something that is not making sense to people, all that feedback that comes back is, we're taking it all in, and it's getting to us to where we can actually process it and make differences or changes and see what we can do in the future, but for the most part, yeah, man, I think the beauty of the world, right, is we all have our opinions, and that's the great thing, at least in the US, and you have the internet now, so everything's out on the table, you know.
Yeah, the internet's a huge platform because it's you kind of almost can say whatever you want and feel like you're kind of protected.
Totally. It's a vehicle, you know.
Yeah, they definitely say a lot of things that they probably would never say to your face, and that's just the nature of social media.
Yeah, and I mean it's the world we live in, you know. And like for me, it's for me it's not a big deal, you know. I mean, we take the feedback, good and bad, and we try and process it, and we try and make adjustments to maybe things that can help us get better, you know. And we take all the feedback, but for the most part, if people are talking about the brand, at least we're stoked about that, you know.
Yeah.
At least we're visible, and then we're still being talked about. That means we're at least somewhat current, you know, and we're not getting forgotten about, you know. But I think for me, you know, for me, I probably get bummed out just as much as anybody else gets bummed out when, you know, people are trolling online and stuff like that, and, you know, kind of just playing that game, you know. But it's a game, you know. So it's like for the most part, you know, everybody that we deal with, you know, they know how we work, and they know the relationships that we keep and take and flourish with time, you know. And at the end of the day, we try and help people. We're trying to grow a big community outside of jiu-jitsu with internally stemming from jiu-jitsu. So we're just always positive, man, regardless of who's saying what, you know. For us, it's always about looking forward and trying to do the best things, and trying to let any negative energy or anything that's not positive towards the brand just move on from it, you know, and just learn from it, grow from it, and continue to build, you know, and build with the people that are around us that believe in what we're doing 100%, and continue to build, you know. That's always the goal. So
yeah, you got to put your energy into the things that you have control and influence over. I mean, we don't have any control or influence over what people think or want to say about the brand or say about an individual. So really, ultimately, at the end of the day, you got to kind of push that stuff out of your mind and focus on the stuff you have control and influence over.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's the biggest thing with the brand, is just we've been trying to focus on the brand, focus on what we do as a company, you know, and let people know that we're going to be building the brand, you know, basically not from scratch, but we're going to be building it almost from the ground up again, but better, stronger, reinventing ourselves time and time again, but staying within the principles of how we do things, you know. And I think that's the most important part, you know, and working with the people that we like working with, that we've worked with over time, you know. And that's the key, I think. So
yeah, I agree. You know, along with the company, or the brand, I should say, getting as big as it has, you've started to have to deal with a lot with resellers, and also people who are making knockoff products, which, I mean, that puts you right up there with Nike and Apple, and I mean, all of those. You got all these people now in making fake Shoyorolls. I mean, did that kind of blow your mind when you first saw that started to happen?
Yeah, totally, man. You know, it's like, it's being from I'm a little jungle kid from Guam, you know. So as far as what I thought this thing would go in 10 or 20 years, I had no idea, you know. That's the reality of it, you know. And what it's kind of been doing over like the last 5 years has been insane, you know. So it's like, I have super humble beginnings, and having and seeing a lot of this happen, you know. I never thought I would have crazy legal fees that I would have to pay to try and minimize some of the stuff, you know. But
yeah,
it's the reality of, I guess, you know, it's partially our fault too, right? I mean, like, that's the reality of it, and it's just a part of business to where we have to be able to manage it and work with it and try and minimize some of the stuff, and continue to grow and adjust and get better, you know. And it's kind of just like a nature. It's a part of the beast, kind of, that
nature
someone created, you know. So I can't say, oh, okay, well, I'm bummed about it, you know. Like, it's a part of what we have to adjust and make changes to going forward, and we have to just be able to manage and deal with these things when they arise, you know. So
Yeah, and I think it's important for people to know that you guys are, taking action and putting things in place that are going to help to deal with this sort of stuff, going forward, and try to limit it as much as possible. I don't think it's possible to completely stifle it, but you guys are definitely doing things to make it a little more difficult for people to do the things that they're doing.
Yeah, man, we got some. We have a good crew, a good crew, and a good legal team that has been helping us over the last few years. And um, yeah, man, I mean, the way they work is insane. So it's like a lot of the stuff they're able to kill real fast, and they're able to do research on and help us with figure out issues and deal with issues. And like I said, man, I would never think I would be paying legal fees as high as we do. I'm like, shit, I could have sponsored like 15 kids.
Yeah.
Like but it's a part of the beast, and I guess it's a part of what we've kind of created over the last 5 years, and really start to change. So it's I guess it's a part of it, and for us, it's we are taking action to make sure some of the stuff is minimized, so it's people are not getting bummed out fake stuff or getting taken advantage of. So we're trying to help any way we can as far as working with our legal department to try and minimize some of these guys that are doing stuff, so.
We got to hire the black belts in the legal area. We're black belts in jiu-jitsu, but you got to have those black belts working for you too.
Yeah, we actually do have a few of them, and they're gnarly, man. They're super good, well respected in their industry, and they've been able to kill some stuff for us, really really well, So it's I can't complain if we didn't have those guys. Like, oh man, like everybody would probably be running crazy.
Definitely.
Everyone would have their own Shoyoroll, side gig, So
yeah.
Our legal team they're intense, So they do a good job in trying to help us minimize or control some of that stuff. So I can't complain, man.
Now, when you guys do a drop in for people that don't know the lingo, I'm sure everybody listening does, but a drop is when the gi is, released for sale. I know there's some people that have bad luck and get on and, they'll get all the way to their shopping cart and hit pay and it'll be gone out of their cart. Is that just the nature of kind of having a limited quantity and are you guys doing anything maybe to enhance the back end, like on the website, to make that a little happen a little less?
Yeah, I think for us, we've kind of realized that we're releasing more gis than we've ever done before. We're making more gis than we've ever made before. Every batch is bigger than the one before. So it's our quantity and our unit of as far as what we're pushing is way more than we've ever done before. But at the same time, our demand is growing more. So it's really really hard to gauge and work with how we're trying to get more gis into people's hands. And the way our company runs is, for the most part, over the last few years, we make a set amount, and after that set amount is done, then it's done, and we're on to the next one. And people that really wanted that specific one, if they jumped online and it sold out in like 10 minutes or 15 minutes, they're probably pretty bummed. And the ones that got it are probably super stoked. And it's a good and bad, but at the same time, we're trying to up our quantities bigger and bigger every batch, and we're trying to have models that we have that are maybe in stock for a few days, and we just had it with our comp standard that we released like, I don't know, like a week ago or 2 weeks ago. I lose track of time.
Yeah,
but
you guys have had so much stuff coming out recently. It's got to be hard to keep track of everything.
Yeah, I mean, you follow the brand, James. You know how frequent we did releases 2-3 years ago as opposed to even last year.
Oh yeah.
This year we're on track to do way more releases, way more quantities on different things, and just trying to get more gis to people that really want them, and try and minimize some of the headache on some of the stuff to try and acquire one. Like I if we make a limited product and it's supposed to be super small quantities just because it's an artist edition or a special edition where the artist and the company only wants to make so many of, to keep it kind of cool and kind of its own special project, then that's cool, if that's what the project is intended for, but if it's a baseline release where it's nothing that's like extra crazy, like a comp standard where it's just supposed to be made for people just to buy it and wear them in the gym and be able to like jump online and buy it, and not go through the headache so much of trying to buy one and it's selling out really fast, and like if we're not able to up those, I get bummed out,
Right.
Because I want people to be able to jump on a sale and purchase it, and not go through, getting all crazy and anxious the day of the sale when that specific project we were supposed to have a lot of them, and it's I say it every time, but it's so crazy, it's like every time we think we got a number down, we're like, okay, well, let's double our units this time, like whatever we ordered last time, let's double it,
Yeah, you're doubling it, but then your following is tripling, and you got that many more people on there trying to grab it.
That's the hard part, It's like we're trying to like, okay, well, we sold that. Like a good example is we just did that release. We sold out the comp standard in like 45 minutes, like a majority of everything, And I'm like, dude, that's like one of our biggest releases in a long time, And I'm like,
right.
How did we run out so fast? So now it's like the next one, we're like, okay, well, let's like double up on quantities for the comp standard to try and like make sure I don't want to sell it out in 45 minutes, like I want to have that gi, I want people to at least be able to buy it for a few days, maybe, like that's the goal of that project, and I think we're making, and the problem is too is we're releasing gis faster and more than we've ever done before, so for us it's like, man, well, okay, well, there's so many projects going, like maybe it's going to slow down one project. So if we're gauging, if we're going to go heavy on this next one, but we have another project that's dropping 2 weeks after, what does that do? So like,
right.
we've never released gis. We've never released as many gis as frequent as we are this year. And we've never, and the amount of quantities we're releasing way more than ever. So it's one of those weird things, it's that we're having to work with internally as a company to make sure we're estimating and getting more stuff here for people, so it's a good problem to have, but at the same time, we're working like literally like every week trying to figure out, okay, well, what is it, and okay, this is landing there, and this is landing now, this is going on sale in 2 weeks, this is going on sale in a week, what's created for 3 weeks, so it's like there's a bunch of things we do internally as a company to make sure we can get more product to people faster, quicker, no longer pre-sales, no longer this. So we're always trying to do things to change the industry, but at the same time, our goal is to get more gis to consumers that just want a gi, like we have the hardcore guys that love the brand and, they're into it for whatever reasons. But then we also have just the normal guys that are like, oh,
I feel like that was directed at me.
No. Then we have the normal guys that are just like, example, your students, or any students that represent the brand. They're like, oh man, I would love to buy it, but how can I buy it?
Yeah.
And then you have to go through the whole story. Well, you can't buy it really.
Yep.
What do you mean you can't buy it? Well, can I just go to their website? Well, you can go to their website, but there's nothing there. Okay, well, they have this thing, it's called, they do drops and releases. It sells out really fast. Like it doesn't really make any sense if you like really think about it in a normal business sense. You're like, okay, wait, so your company makes product, right? Where can I buy your product right now? Like nowhere. Okay.
If I had a nickel for every time I've had that exact conversation, I'd be a millionaire.
But it's that same thing, and it's like, and then a lot of like most people, in defense to most people, like it doesn't really make any sense when you think about it. It's like, okay, you're a business that supposedly is making really good kimonos, or gis or apparel, and I really want to wear your brand, and I can't buy your brand. On your website, you have nothing. So for us, that by itself is just it's a hard it's like, okay, well, they're gonna do a release, they're gonna have this coming up, you just have to kind of follow them, you know. So for the hardcore fans, the guys that love our brand, they're fine with that, you know. But for, you know, let's just put this in a percentage in the market, you know, and let's just say that's 10% of the market, you know, and 90% of people, they don't want to go crazy at 10 a.m. on a Friday, you know,
Right.
like, or if they did one time or twice, they're kind of over it, you know. They just really want a gi, you know. They love the brand, they love the gi, they love how it fits, they love what we do, but at the end of the day, they just want to be able to buy a gi from us, you know. And
so you're saying they don't have a wardrobe with 100 gis behind them right now?
not yet, not yet. I'm a collector, so you know, I feel very I have a deep place in my heart for anybody that has a nice collection of anything.
Right, right.
So, but yeah, I think they want to be able to represent the brand, you know. And I think for us, it's us being able to cater to our hardcore following and brand loyalists and supporters, but at the same time try and put out offerings that can at least get people that want our product, you know, a day or two to be able to buy stuff every now and then, you know. Like, that's our goal, you know. And if we can achieve that this year, I'm stoked, you know. Like, if I can get more people to be able to buy our product without going through the pains of sometimes trying to pick it up on a release date, then I'm stoked, you know. And if we can consistently get projects out that geek out our hardcore fans and the people that love and support the brand for what it is, then I'm stoked as well. You know, it's kind of hard to balance both, but for us, I think if we do it right, we can be able to suffice both consumers. You know, that's the goal, at least.
Yeah, it's definitely a constant balancing act that you guys are having to do. And do you have any plans to do maybe one model that you produce year round or anything like that, or you plan to kind of stick with the same formula?
I mean, I think right now there's no change. I don't think we have any plans to have like one model, like a baseline model, not anytime in the near future, at least, you know. But what I do plan and hope for is to be able to consistently have quarterly releases that don't sell out in 45 minutes.
Right, giving more access that way.
Yeah, I would love to be able to put out an offering to consumers that and say, hey, this product's going to go on sale on a Friday, and you know, and there should be enough quantities to last it through Saturday, Sunday, maybe even Monday, maybe even the following week, you know. Yeah,
that's great. That'll make a lot of people happy if that happens.
Yeah, and that's the goal, you know. My goal is to get more gis and more product to the average consumer, you know, not the geek, you know, like the geeks and the people like you and I, you know, like like we're gonna follow stuff no matter what. That's just in the way we think, you know. But my goal is to be able to help those guys get really cool things, but at the same time be able to get the normal person that just wants to buy a gi because the way it fits or support it because of the things we do, make it a little bit easier for them, you know. And that's our goal, at least this year. So
definitely, that sounds great. I think that's gonna make a lot of people listening to this happy. Now, I know you're a busy guy just like me, and probably even busier. And I've taken a lot of your time this morning. I really appreciate it, but I wanted to give you a chance if there's anything you wanted to let everybody know about upcoming to be on the lookout for, or any announcements you have. Now would be a great time to let everybody know.
No, only announcement I have is stay tuned to Foster's podcast. Is going to be the next big thing. Watch out, he's going to blow up. So if you're not subscribing, make sure you're subscribing now. So especially now after having you on. No, you're too kind, man. You're too kind.
Hey, brother. Well, brother, I appreciate everything you've done for me, and I appreciate you coming on and giving me some time this morning to kick off the first podcast of 2016.
No worries, man. I appreciate you more than you appreciate me, and thank you for all that you do.
I don't know if that's possible.
Well, you're the man, brother. You have a great weekend, and I hope you and everyone are doing well. So,
all right, brother. Same to you and the family, and take care. I look forward to talking to you and hopefully seeing you in person real soon.
Yeah, we'll see each other soon, man. You have a great one, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yep, you too.
There you go.